And welcome to the big Bugout radio shootout. Which one do you think will perform best at your Bugout location? Will it be the radios that were designed to go in your Bugout bag or for emergency communication? Will it be a couple of old school portables? How about some transistor radios? A couple of vintage ones up against a brand new Sony? Or will it be the old school big portable, the world famous GE Super Radio, or the recent Grundig S450 DLX field radio? Find out which one performs better and which one you'll want in the field. We're here at an alternate Bugout location, only because the fishermen have decided to occupy my, well, no longer secret spot. But anyway, we're only about a mile or so from where we normally would be, along a fairly big lake here in upstate New York. And the only drawback is this road, for whatever reason, has a lot of traffic on it. So bear with us while we have some road noise issues. But we will find out which one of these big radios or which one of the little radios will actually outperform. Let's get to it. Now, suffice it to say that the radios that are designed to get FM will do so fairly well here because, well, we're just not that far away from a few FM stations, and signals tend to bounce around in the mountains pretty good here. So, more than likely, all of the radios here will perform roughly the same on FM. So, what we will do is, because more than likely in an SHTF scenario, local FM radio will most likely be shut down, especially in a time of martial law. The only real source of information you're going to have is AM, and then more than likely it'll be at night versus during the day. But anyhow, we will be looking at the AM performance of these radios, since AM is the toughest for a portable radio to receive. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't know that, but it's true. And it has to do with the size of the antenna inside the radio and the circuit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the radios that were meant to go in your pack. And a lot of people went out and bought these, and there are newer models, but I'm not going to go out and buy them all. So I just grabbed a few off the shelf that have a little bit of popularity to them. And what we will do is we are going to come over here, and as you can see, we have all of the models on a chart, and here are the local frequencies. Some of these are stronger than others, and we are going to compare just how well each radio stacks up. And we'll make a final tally, and we'll put the camera there to hold the piece of paper in. And away we go. First radio we're going to test here is the Eaton FRX2. The FRX2, although it looks like it has an analog tuner, it's actually a digital tuner with just a very cheesy analog pointer hooked up to it. I don't know why they did that. The strangest things come out of China. But so we're going to go through and select AM. We have to turn this on. And quite frankly, it's a miracle I even put a battery in this, because I don't use this radio. It's a piece of junk in my opinion. That's the volume all the way up. Oops. And we're going to start at the low end of the dial here and just work our way up. And you can hear it go through channels. Hear how it tunes? That's why people didn't like these, because they couldn't figure out how this thing worked. Let's see how many signals and how well we get them. Again, that's the volume all the way up. So that's 590. And what we're going to do is we're going to give it 1 mark for weak signal, 2 marks for a usable signal, and 3 marks for a strong, loud signal. So we'll give that one there. It's picking up some camera interference too. Now that's a middling signal. Don't be fooled. The radio's volume is turned all the way up. And because you have to run this radio at full volume all the time, it kills the battery in about 10 minutes. So that's why, a fully charged battery no less. So that's why I don't use this radio pretty much at all. But I figured I would include it because Walmart sells these things, or very similar ones, and I figured there's at least a few of you might have it. We'll be generous and give this a 2. Okay, for the sake of brevity, I went through and just tuned the radio, because I'm sure you people don't want to watch me tune about 10 different radios from one end of the dial to the other. And here's how the Eaton FRX2 did. Remember, 1 mark is for a weak signal, 2 marks is for a moderate usable signal, and 3 marks would be for a strong signal. And that's how well the FRX2 did. Now, let's compare it to the radio it replaced. And believe it or not, this is always with me, the FR160. I like this radio. I like it a lot, and I even use it for the flashlight that's in it. So let's turn it on here. Start at the left end of the dial and see what we can get. There's 1 channel. This radio needs a really deft touch to tune it. 2 channels. Camera interference. Barely a 3rd channel there. Fourth channel. It's tuning in the camera. This is a really good receiver if you're in town. If you're in the suburbs or in a city, this is a very good little radio, and especially at night it pulls in everything. But I wanted a daytime test, a real world test out here in the sticks, and as you can see, you're not getting much on it. And barely, what, a 5th channel? And that's that. So let's tally it up. Barely heard a station there. We barely heard a station there. barely picked that one up. We barely picked that one up. And we barely picked up that one there. Alright, on to the next. And the next contestant on this very unscientific and very quick, I'll tune that down to the low end of the band, is the Kato KA500 Voyager. A lot of people have this. It's an interesting performer, closer to civilization. Let's see how it does out here. Turn that on there. We will turn it to AM. And away we go. Alright, there's one. It's going to be difficult for me to tune some of these and hold the camera at the same time. Should get the tripod out. There's AM 640. Very weak.
The objective is conservative media.
There's 810. Not too bad, signal-wise, although a little weak. Let's see, that's AM 1230. And it can't pick up 1540. How about that? So let's go and make the tally here. 590 it did very well with. We'll give that 2. We'll give that a 2. Let's see, 1230 it picked up. And I think 980 was 1. And that's it. So the Kato is a little better on the low end of the band versus the rest of it. Alright, so there's your 3 crank up solar powered multi-purpose Bugout radios, and the results are kind of mediocre, but we got to compare it to something. So let's compare it to this 1970, this 45-year-old transistor radio, which I keep in my prep case in the car. Now you're asking yourself, how in the world is this little old transistor radio going to pick anything up way out here in the sticks? Well, let's see how it does. I'll come over here into the shade a little bit. Well, there's one channel, 590. It's trying to pick up 640. Well, there's 810. Barely trying to pick up 980. It's 1230. The reason why I'm kind of moving around is because these are directional, so. And there's 1540. Not terribly strong, but it's there.
Our narcissistic society, and dare I say, the church. I was joking with a speaking engagement in the church not too long ago, and I asked everybody in the.
So if you were out here,
When you stand before the Lord, show of hands. How
you got a usable radio. So let's give it a. Let's see here. That's the Panasonic R1170. Did fairly well with that signal. Could barely pick up that signal. Listenable. One there. Two there. One there. And actually two there. And now we're going to tally up all these points here and try to come up with some sort of a total points deal here. So how about that? The old radio actually outperformed each of the newer Bugout radios. And we got this old piece of junk GE that a lot of people might have in their Bugout bag. You know, because it's small, it's cheap, it runs on a 9-volt forever, and it's reliable. This thing will work even if it gets wet and you dry it out, it'll work again. But let me put the pen down here for a second. Picks up the camera interference nice.
You choose the right heating or air conditioning system, save you as much money.
Well, that's 810.
Right now, we're able to offer you more than $2,000.
A lot of camera interferences picks up. So not that impressive. It really only gets 3 things, barely. Oops, I forgot my pen here. This very scientific, very laboratory test that we got going on here. So for the GE P2790, we will give it a 1 there and a 1 down there. That's it. That's all I heard. You get what you pay for, I guess. It only cost me a couple of bucks at a yard sale. Now how about this brand new, and we're talking brand new Sony ICFS-10 Mark II. Let's see, it's on AM. We'll turn it on here. And drop my pen. And let's see how it does. We're already in the left end of the dial. Well, there's 590. There's 810.
Certified financial planner.
Well, that's 1540. And that's 1410. That you can just kind of hear in there. Alright, so Sony picked up, and there you have it. There's the roundup of the transistor radios. And now we're going to 2 of my favorites, the old portables. Both of these radios are operated off of 4C batteries. This radio here is AM only, the RCA. It says long range TRF on it. That means it was made to be a good solid performer on AM. And over here, a realistic Astronaut 4 from probably 1974 or 1975. Has AM, FM, and shortwave on it. And this is my all-time, I shouldn't say all-time, but my current favorite radio to just take everywhere, especially when I'm out and about here in the woods and I want something to generally listen to. Let's try this one out first. We'll turn it on here. Turn up the volume. Get out of the sunlight here a little bit and get away from the car. Hard to do while holding the camera, I tell you. That's 570 right there.
Oh, how are they to know?
590.
To educate everybody about
There's 640.
Thursday weekend is on the tier, and reservations are filling fast at the Real Seafood Company. Mom will love the new spring
810.
menu at the...
Federal Bank, located on Route 30 in Amsterdam.
That's 930 out of Fulton County there.
WNBA New York Liberty. Jesus. I feel like my whole life.
980.
It's still mostly sunny skies out there, but looking outside of our windows here in Boston, it looks like there's some high and low.
That's 1030 out of Boston.
Right now it is 74 degrees, although tonight it's supposed to be mostly...
It's 1160.
Jim McNally here, but the guy has Brady's
1230.
men on the moon, but I have seen something more dramatic. From America taking liberty for granted, and now liberty.
1300. 1330, which isn't even on the sheet.
There's a Hall of Famer.
1410.
Right there.
A very weak 1440. 1450.
Family in the area. He's a deeply committed Christian.
And 1540.
And so I thought it
So there you have it there.
some sayings from not just George.
Surprise, surprise. The old late 1960s portable that I picked up at a yard sale for like 10 bucks.
Had a private prayer book. And I just want to
Did pretty well. Let's tally up let's tally everything up. I found my pen here. It's actually heard 570, so we'll put a mark in there. Very usable signal on 590. Barely heard 640. Had no trouble with 810. Heard 930. Heard 980. Heard 1030. 1160. 1230. Had a fairly decent signal. 1300. 1410 was a little stronger. 1440. Didn't pick up 1450, although I probably tuned right past it. And 2 marks for 1540. Alright. The best performer yet. But will it be the best performer today? Let's try out this realistic here. I'll turn this all the way down. Turn you on. AM. I'll take it away from the car here. I don't want the car body to interfere with anything. That's a very weak 570. I really need to do this with some sort of a tripod, but
just begun.
Nice clean signal from 590.
So you think it was
640.
Of slavery. And instead, as I knew would be the case, it's gotten worse.
Usable signal from 810. Barely 930.
What do I think he knew?
Barely 980. It's 1030. It's trying, but not terribly successful. $11.60.
Read it cover to cover. Because here's a fan who thinks two things that are not true.
$12.30.
That the government...
of the Jew going to the
1300. Kind of weak, but there. 1330. Sneaking in.
bandwagon fans that didn't burn
1410.
Can you tell me who you are? This is What's your name?
1440. 1450. 1460. Wow, this was the only radio so far to pick out those three adjacent channel stations, which I put in on purpose to test out selectivity too.
I guarantee you that there's some of you right now
And 1540.
that are in trying to make the issue.
So how about that?
Hypocrisy toward the Native Americans, toward the Indians.
Japanese-made set from the mid-70s.
The Indians.
That realistic. I love it. It kicks butt. But anyway. And the batteries in it last forever. So let's look. 590, it did pretty well with it. 640, it picked up. 810, it did pretty well with it. 930, it picked up to 980. Didn't hear 1030 very well. 1230 came in very well. 1300, 1410. We'll give that a 1. Actually, no, we'll give that a 2 because that came in good. And then all of these, and then 1540. All right. And now we're down. I'm just trying to speed through this here because this video is going to be about 9 million minutes long. And now it's time to go to the big guns. Panasonic R1170 or F1170, excuse me. I think this is from 1978. The GE Super Radio. This is the original version from the early 80s. And the Grundig S450 DLX, which is just a couple of years old. And you can buy these things on the cheap, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Actually, I'll show you why right now. I'm going to leave this right up here in the car because it's too heavy to... See, it's a miracle it's even working, because you have to bang on it because it has so many loose solder joints in it that most of these that were purchased were almost immediately returned. And you can find these things for like $40 now. The cheapest radio with a Grundig name on it is this one right here. I wouldn't recommend this for anything, but I wanted to make a comparison with a newer model in the lineup here. And this would certainly be something that some people would get. So let's go down and start at the left end of the dial here. You hear that buzz? This radio picks up its own microprocessor. It's very noisy. 570 barely.
My huckleberry friend.
Wow, the sun is just so bright. Let's see if we can find a spot that's in the shade here.
Back in 590, the rich love to the great songs, great memories. All the songs you love and remember. 590 AM online albanymagic.com. Bob Green, the moon.
You hear that tone in the background? That's the processor. As far as the receiver goes in it, it's very average. .770 out of New York City. That's a fairly good catch.
You remember my first...
930. Hear all that interference? That's just totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And it's all internally generated in the radio itself. Let's see if it'll get 10. Barely gets 1030. You can also tell it has bass and treble controls. It really doesn't sound that great through this speaker. It's not terrible, but it's not as good as the radio that this replaced, which was the 350. Sorry, I need to shout, but my goodness, how can I be so far away from home and have all of this traffic driving by? All right.
See what others paid for that car. Then you can lock in guaranteed savings from dealers in your area. This announcement is sponsored by MARF, Mothers Against Rotten Flowers. Speaking on behalf of MARF is your...
All right, some of that's the camera.
Well, us moms get it. You're uber busy. But Mother's Day is like close, and this is no out.
Because it's something that...
Brady being one of the best.
Give the Masters the reconciliation.
How beautiful to see mother and child so intimately and sensitive.
All right, I'm not even gonna entertain that radio anymore. That's annoying. So there you have it. Probably the newest radio in the collection and nearly useless. But let's go over and tally it up. Now, if it actually had some shielding around its microprocessor, it would actually be a fairly decent receiver. But because it's Chinese made, it's cheap junk. But it did fairly well on that. Barely picked that up. Did fairly well on that. Picked that up. It picked that up. Barely picked up 1030. Actually, we'll give 980 a 2 here. And that didn't do too bad. That didn't do too bad. Picked all of these up. And even the trifecta here. And it did that. So far it's the only radio to pick up all, well, except one of the frequencies. So hard to believe that Grundig's going to be in the lead. Or will it? Let's give a listen to this old Panasonic, which I've had for 30 some odd years. I'm going to tune it back down to the low end of the band here. AM antenna on top. So let's see how it does. I don't know if I can. We're looking at this scale right here. The second one over. AM. Whoops. Come on, focus. All right.
Menkins, which is a department store owned by a Jewish family, and now the daughter in that family is taking over the store.
There.
Don pitches her, oh, there should be
My
like
apologies for the poor videography, but again,
this
this is tough doing this, holding a camera and tuning all of these radios,
as an offense.
and trying to do this fairly quickly, but completely here. So 590 was very strong.
Yep, good time to take a break. We'll do it and return before you know it.
In every corner of this world,
Rush.
your name is a household name.
Limbaugh on the
Full strength.
network. The 2:30 news is minutes away on 810 and 1031 WGY. Mailing and ship.
Did you see that
9:30 a.m.
Services provided up to 24 hours.
There's 9:50.
Wash and wax anywhere. Car washing will never be the same.
Hey, here's a fun fact. Some fruits are really vegetables, and some vegetables are actually fruits. But Tropical
980.
Farm Stand is both.
Picking up the camera here a little bit.
It's true.
Wow, 10:50 out of New York.
128. Delays off Cape this afternoon. Route 6 westbound, stop and go, exit 2 to the Sagamore Bridge. That's a 4-mile backup. The bridge is down to 1 lane on that off Cape side. Now, if you're planning to use the Bourne Bridge, Sandwich Road, which comes in along the canal, that's backed up almost a mile into the Bourne Rotary. But Route 28 north is fine, coming up from Falmouth. Route 3 northbound is backing up quickly through Pembroke. We just got word of a left lane crash before Route 139. Expressway southbound's already jammed from the tunnel down through that Savin Hill stretch. Brakes free after the gas tank. Northbound's not bad for now. 128 southbound is backed up at Route 9. Downtown, the lower deck isn't bad. It's pretty slow over the Zakin Bridge and into the tunnel. The Leverett up ramp is backed up, but Sturo Drive's okay. The Mass Pike's off to a good start. This report brought to you by Zillow. With millions of homes for sale, apartments for rent, photos, historical pricing data, and other resources.
10:30 out of
Available
Boston.
on Zillow.com.
1080 out of Hartford.
Scott is very great. It's check with your forecast coming in with about 4 weeks.
11:10 out of Western Massachusetts.
It was. They kind of kept us. We were
12:30.
partitioned off.
12:40. 1300.
to interact formally with any
1330.
medication.
1340, barely. That sounds like 1380 out of Rutland, Vermont.
It's not been covered that people are not talking about.
1410.
That's why you come to me, right? Different point of view. Different.
Nice and loud.
Who's something that people are not.
Wait for the trucks to go by here. That's 1440 out of Gloversville.
One to mentor and disciple you.
1450.
Take the incremental steps
Wow,
to get
nice
there.
and loud.
And in 10 years, double.
Bill Bright, the four spiritual laws of Campus Crusade.
And that's 1460
Read this little prayer and recite this formula.
out of Albany. Barely 1490 out of the Mohawk Valley there.
Of American life. Wow.
Full strength 1540.
And
Wow. So there you have it. Let's tally it up. Let's tally it up. I gotta find it here. I never put it on the list. Well, we'll put it on the list down here. Oh, nope, here it is. Wait a minute. Okay, I got these backwards here. I filled it in, so that's the 1159. And there would be the 1170. So 570 it heard, 590, very good. 640, 810, very good. 930, 980, 1030, 1160, 1230 was full strength, 1300, 1410 wasn't bad at all. I heard all of those. And 1540 full strength. Actually 1450 wasn't too bad either. So there you have it. We got one more radio to do, and that's the GE Super Radio. And you're seeing it here live and unedited. Well, there's going to be a few edits because I'm not perfect and sometimes I need to take two. But let's tune this all the way down to the left end here of this very scientific experiment. Alright, there's 570. GE Super Radio is very directional, so very good signal on 590. Thought I could get 640 on here, and there it is, just barely.
At the Lodge Cabin in Holyoke. You can get your tickets at NECR.net.
Ooh. Camera interference big time.
New York pay more in taxes than some of the biggest corporations in New York.
There's 810.
But remember that.
That's 880 out of New York. How about that?
For Mrs. Clinton. Am I following Hillary Clinton? No, you're not, Sean.
950 out of Utica. Or 930.
I don't know. You would think that the quarterbacks would have the power to be able to get together to say,
This thing really likes to pick up the old camera.
They're a little bit harder, or they're not as scuffed up. They've worked, kind of worn.
Good signal on 980.
Thursday afternoon, May 7th, and Congress is getting some authority here.
No bill, no review.
10:30 out of Boston.
No bill, no oversight.
It's about Iran and the nuclear agreement. No comment from Tom.
1160.
An undrafted LSU offensive tackle.
Very loud. 1230. 1240. 1300.
People coming into my clinic.
1330. Wow, 1320. Wow, WDER, Derry, New Hampshire.
Heart disease and maintain.
1340 out of Gloversville.
And by the time he got home, your skin. Check this. He turns the phone and he drops a video that
1380 out of Rutland.
You want to know his questions about the plate.
1410.
No matter what roles I play.
1440. Very loud. 1450. 1460.
The interest is our participation, our share.
1490.
Bible for their only law.
1540. And I think that's 1570. So there you have it. Let's do up the tallying here. Herd 570 did very well on 590. Herd 640 very well on 810. 930 wasn't bad. 980 wasn't bad. 1030, 1160 wasn't bad. 1230 was loud. 1300. 1410. 1440 wasn't bad. 1450. 1460 was weak, and 1540 was right there. So there you have it. Let's do up the tallying, shall we? So we have the tally, we have the totals, and it will surprise you. We're going to go from worst to best. Worst one, obviously, the GE cheapo transistor radio from the 70s. Works great in town, out in the sticks, no good. Here's a radio that kind of surprised me. I thought it would do better, but it really didn't. It only scored 5 points. And like I said, this is a very good performer in town and in the suburbs, but out here in the sticks, lots of sticks to be had too. Not that great. These three tied for 7 points. Roughly the same performance out of each of them, and which is kind of ironic because these are all radios that are probably a year or two old, maybe 3 years old by now. But all of the modern ones tied for 7 points. This was a surprise. This actually got 11 points. This little old Panasonic transistor radio from like 1970. And then behind it, we start getting into the good performers here. The RCA. The Realistic did a little better. The Grundig did pretty well, but again with that caveat of it barely works and the receiver is very noisy. The Panasonic RF 1170 did very well, and the winner the GE Super Radio. And we tried to do these tests live. So, we tried to come up with a neutral scoring system here as far as their performance went, more than anything else. So there you have it. If you're looking for a good bug-out radio, sometimes bigger is better. Actually, in this case, bigger was definitely better. But don't be fooled by the radios that market themselves as emergency radios and stuff that you think is trendy because it's got a little wind-up crank on the side of it and a flashlight and a solar panel on top. Because even if I charge this red one here all day long, it'll only work for about 20 or 25 minutes and then it just goes dead. And when you crank it for 2 or 3 minutes, that only gives you a couple of minutes of airplay. And that one's not that much better. And both of these do have replaceable rechargeable batteries, and I have replaced both batteries in these, and the performance is about the same. So for bang of the buck, for a good pack radio, I would look for an old transistor. They're dirt cheap and they're everywhere. And test it out in the woods or wherever you go before you put it in your pack. But if you use your vehicle primarily to carry your bug-out gear, like I do, because quite frankly I am almost never far from my vehicle. Wherever I go, my car is with me, so it doesn't hurt to put one of these in a box in the trunk and carry them along. And the realistic I use at home, so I carry that out the door with me if I really want to go anywhere. This RCA, which is called a Globetrotter, but there were several models that used this particular cabinet. This is the AM only version. I keep that in the car at all times. Hey, you never know. You never know when I want to stop off for a cup of coffee or something and listen to some news or some talk or whatever, music even. But there you have it. Out of all of these, the best performer on AM, and I say AM because in an SHTF scenario, or especially in an EMP, FM is going to be kaput, gone. EMPs are something that few people realize, but EMP radiation, or I shouldn't say radiation, I should say energy, is centered right around 100 megahertz, which is right in the smack dab in the middle of the FM band. And because FM transmitters use tuned antennas, those antennas will very efficiently receive that EMP surge much more efficiently than an AM broadcast station, which uses a very long antenna, or very tall, rather, because the wavelength is much longer. So that's that, in order from best down to worse. At least the radio's out of my collection anyway. And that'll do it for this portion of the Bugout Radio Shootout. I'm going to test a couple of these on the weather band and see how well they do as well. And then we'll give a couple listens to FM and shortwave here. So hold on.